How many people you want to fight, Benavidez? Now you want to move up to cruiserweight and fight Jai Opetaia? Before you want to fight Zerto, then you want to fight Beterbiev, then you want to fight Bivol, Canelo, Crawford, Callum.
Tiana, Khadijah, Lenny, Carvel, him, her, bodies.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the energy and the ambition. You know, for a young man, it's nutritious. But now you calling out all these people, starting to seem a little capilicious.
If I tell you I'm good, probably you will say I'm boasting. But if I tell you I'm no good, you know I'm lying.
Yo, what's good, Boxing Talk family? Welcome back to your favorite boxing news channel, Dr. Boxing Talk, and we are back for another YouTube video banger, man. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I know what time it is. A doctor's in the house, man. So check this out. But before we get to it, you know, as usual, let's go ahead and hit that like button for your boys. Take a second. Let's do it together. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Very easy. You know what I'm saying? Keeps us going and growing. But yeah, David Benavidez has come out and released on his social media, specifically Instagram, that he would welcome a fight with Jai Opetaia. Not only that, he said that, hey, man, let's make it happen. And he even added Jai Opetaia right here. And I don't have a problem with this, man. That's one of the reasons why I like David Benavidez, because he is ambitious and he wants all the fights. You know, he just brought us a great fight, a very fan-friendly fight with David Morrell, man. It was a great fight, you know, and every fight that David Benavidez, El Monstro, was involved in is going to be fire, man. So I like Benavidez, you know, and I am one of those, you know, my favorite, those of you that are accustomed to the channel, let me say, you know my favorite fighter is Canelo, and you know, the face of boxing. You know, of course, I like Gervonta Tank Davis up there too, probably my second favorite fighter, and Junta Nakatani is probably my third favorite fighter. But you know, I never really show preferential treatment. I'm very unbiased and I'm objective when I talk about boxing, you know what I'm saying? So I don't feel compelled to dislike Benavidez because I like Cinnamon. No, in fact, I like Benavidez more because I want Cinnamon to fight Benavidez, and I like him because he's going for Canelo. However, I will say this, objectively speaking, you know, the truth of the matter is, whether you like it or not, Benavidez was never ordered to fight Cinnamon. Now, Cinnamon is the face of boxing, so heavy is the head that wears the crown. I will never say, you would never hear me say that Canelo couldn't have fought Benavidez. Of course he could have. He could fight anybody he wants. Hence, we're getting Cinnamon versus Terrence Crawford, you know? He could fight anybody he wants because everybody's going to jump at a chance to fight him. You know, he's a big money guy, and he comes with a lot of legacy, right? He has 67 fights, you know, 63 wins, 2 losses and 2 draws. Phenomenal resume. Been in there with a whole bunch of Hall of Famers. So he is a legacy fight for Benavidez. However, I disagree that Benavidez is a legacy fight for Canelo. You know, Canelo's already established. It doesn't matter who he fights. He cannot fight again. He's already an all-time great. You see what I'm saying? So while I would want him to fight Benavidez, of course, and I think he beats Benavidez, I would love to see him prove it. But he doesn't need Benavidez or anybody else to substantiate his place in the annals of the history of boxing. You know what I'm saying? That's just my personal opinion. But of course, I want to see him fight the best, and Benavidez definitely, you know, represents that. Now, I will say this, though. This is the part that I agree with Cinnamon. Benavidez is a big guy, right? And, you know, Cinnamon will tell us, hey, man, Benavidez doesn't do anything besides bring an extra 25 pounds to the ring on fight night. And I disagree with that. He's exaggerating, right? Benavidez is a formidable guy. He's a skillful guy. He's a very good fighter, you know, but he is a bigger guy, right? He always is much larger. No, I ain't gonna say always, but the majority of the time he's much larger than the guys that he fights, especially at 168, as Boo Boo Andrade. You see what I'm saying? And ask everybody else that he fought before that, even Caleb Plant. You know, David Benavidez is a bigger guy. Even if his opponents don't complain about it, you can see from the optics that when he comes in on fight night, just like Devin Haney, you know, they are bigger than their opponents for the most part. You know, I just don't think when people call them a weight bully, that's cool with me, but make sure that you add some further specificity and say that they're consummate professionals and they're the epitome of professionalism. They demonstrate that because they always make weight. Well, with the exception of David Benavidez missing weight a couple times back in the old days, you know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna bring up old stuff, but you know, Devin Haney, he always makes weight. So blowing up after making weight is different than, let's say, Ryan Garcia or Keyshawn Davis just coming in overweight just because without even trying. That is unprofessional. You see what I'm saying? So I got to give respect to Devin Haney and David Benavidez for the most part for coming in and making weight. But then he does blow up heavily, right? He does. It is what it is, you know? And I think that his desire to even entertain or suggest that he will fight Jai Opetaia or Zerto Ramirez at cruiserweight, this is a testament to what Canelo was talking about. You want to fight Canelo at 168. You're talking about you potentially fight Terrence Crawford at 168, but at the same time, you're a champion at light heavyweight 175, and you're talking about potentially fighting Callum Smith or the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol. But then at the same time, you tell me that you're going to go to cruiserweight and fight Zerto and Jai Opetaia.
God damn it, that's a big fat ass!
Brother, that's a huge weight disparity, bro. From 168 to cruiserweight, where the limit is 200.
God damn, that's a big fat ass.
Hey!
That's a whole lot of pounds, my brother. So what I'm saying is I'm not giving anybody an excuse, but we do have weight classes for a reason, and we want the fights to be as fair as possible when you're going into the ring. Now, you know, it's not going to be equal because fighters are going to be different heights. They're going to have different arm reaches. They're going to have different characteristics and traits. Some fighters are going to be slicker than others, more athletic than others, more cerebral than others, you know what I'm saying, slicker than others, and, you know, faster and stuff like that. Those are characteristics. But at the end of the day, boxing is separated by your weight, right? Because like I tell people all the time, not to get too scientific, because you know I am an engineer with my PhD, but you know, weight is a force, right? And a lot of people might be like, oh, what you mean what's a force? No, it's a force. Force equals mass times acceleration. What is weight? Weight equals mass times gravity. Gravity is an acceleration, so that'd be the A part. The mass that goes with it, you know, mass is M still, and then the W would be the F, the force. So F equals MA is synonymous with W equals mg. You get weight by multiplying the mass times acceleration, which on Earth is 9.8 meters per second squared, which is gravity. You see what I'm saying? So weight is a force, and that's how they separate boxing divisions. Not trying to get too complicated, but that's how you break it down simplistically, you know? And so the effort for doing that is to say, okay, these fighters represent the same amount of force, no matter if you're tall and lanky like Sebastian Fedor, or you're smaller in stature and kind of massive with it, you know, like Nick Ball, you know? That's how you measure it. So like Nick Ball is very short, right? And let's go to somebody else that's very tall in his division at 126 is Rafael Espinosa, but they represent the same weight. So that's the boxing world's effort to try to make sure nobody is at a substantial disadvantage when fighting each other. But when you got guys that are able to dehydrate, which is a character trait as well, you know, if some people are able to dehydrate and rehydrate back to where they normally fight at or walk around at in a short amount of time, and everybody's body's not able to do that. However, if you are manipulating it, I do think that that is some type of unfairness. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's outside the confines of the sport. It's not illegal, but it is kind of unfair when you're coming in 25, 30 pounds over the weight limit. You know what I'm saying? Even 20 pounds, that's a bit too much. Now you come in over like, you know, maybe like 10 or 12 or maybe 15. Okay, cool. Where you rehydrate, but 20, 25, 30, that's a little bit much, man. So I like David Benavidez. I actually think David Benavidez and Jai Opetaia is a good fight, despite what I'm saying. You know, it may not seem like that. I think that's a great fight, but I would love for David Benavidez to just be patient and just wait for the Beterbiev and Bivol winner and then get it that way, because you cannot just skip the line, bro. And I know a lot of people don't remember, but Michael Eifert, the IBF mandatory, he's the one that was next. But they gave him step-aside money in order to have the rematch with Beterbiev and Bivol still remain for the undisputed title. You see what I'm saying? The WBC and President Mauricio Solomon tried to skip the line and force a wedge between the trilogy and put Benavidez in there. Bivol's not ducking him. Beterbiev is not ducking him. You know, these guys are great. So I think we prematurely put out that duck label. It's just that sometimes you got to be patient, man. You didn't get the Canelo fight. I feel bad for you. You know what I'm saying? I feel that. You know, you should be disappointed. But that doesn't give you any right to a fight that was already predetermined. We already knew that Bivol and Beterbiev were going to potentially have a trilogy, because we knew the first fight, if it was close, we'd have a rematch. And then if the rematch had a different victor than the first match, we'd probably have a trilogy. And that's exactly what transpired. So why would we think that Benavidez would go and interrupt that? And then obviously also, let's say he goes to cruiserweight. Well, we already know Jai Opetaia and Zurdo are looking to have an undisputed matchup in their future or have further unifications, because Zurdo is already unified as the WBA and WBO champion when he beat Chris Billiam Smith, right? And then Badu Jack just came back, you know, and he has a rematch with Noel McCalin, which I think is completely unnecessary. But anyway, they are having that. And then Zurdo just got off of a voluntary defense against an unknown, unranked opponent. Well, he was ranked number 14, but pretty much out of the top 10. So unranked, you know, Claudio Squeo, who was undefeated. But like I said, he's relatively unknown, and he never fought out of Italy. And then he went in there and got his jaw broke by Jai Opetaia right on schedule, you know. But anyway, Jai Opetaia wants to get undisputed, and Zurdo also wants to get undisputed. And so let's see how that plays out first. Let them handle their business in their respective divisions. You handle your business in your division, and then we'll see about that clash later on. So if I'm Jai Opetaia, I wouldn't even entertain it, you know what I'm saying, because I don't think it's realistic. But if it could happen, I'm not saying it should happen, but if it could happen, boy, that's a good fight. And I'm not even going to make a prediction right now. You know, I just say, you know, because like I said, I think I'm not even going to entertain it myself, but that'd be a good fight though. I think David Benavidez and anybody's a good fight, but I look forward to David Benavidez probably fighting Callum Smith until we see the winner Beterbiev and Bivol, which will probably fight the winner of Benavidez and Callum Smith. That's just me, man. That's what I think. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. Is Benavidez being a little bit too ambitious? Does he just need to chill? Or do you think he's doing the right thing, man? Yeah, let him go fight Benavidez. I mean, let Benavidez go fight Opetaia or Zerto, or fight Beterbiev and Bivol at the same time. Hell, he probably wants to fight Clarissa Shields and Alicia Bumgarner and everybody else too. Maybe even John Jones. Hell, the way he's at it, he wants to call out everybody, man. That's crazy. But yeah, man, shout out to David Benavidez. I rock with him, but it is becoming a little bit annoying and exhausting right now, man. Just chill, buddy. Your turn is coming, brother. You got it, man. Shout out to y'all, man. Appreciate y'all rocking. Don't forget to smack that like button. But most importantly, remember, with God, we can do anything. Without God, we're nothing. The doctor's out. Peace. From the hood to college, both worlds they had to meet. 6 degrees between us, so cold, we're about to freeze. But we're Florida boys, hot takes, we bring the heat. We're moving the culture, the engineers to the streets.